Welcome to another HVAC Insider Series Masterclass brought to you by Breezy. I'm your host, as always, CJ Todd, and it's great to see so many familiar faces on today's call and a couple of new ones today, too. So we are tackling one of the most frustrating and honestly most expensive challenges that contractors face out there in the field, and that's sales conversions that almost close, right? We all know those ones. Let me think about it. I want to get a few more bids. Let me talk to my partner. And the dreaded, man, you're so much more expensive than that one bandana I talked to yesterday. Well, these are not random objections. They're actually signals that something broke down earlier in the conversation. And today's guest, Weldon Long, he has spent decades helping contractors overcome, fix that exact problem. So before we get into today's content, I'd love to introduce you to what we believe here at Breezy, right? So at the end of the day, I think sales growth comes from two things, right? It comes from getting more opportunities and converting more of those ones that you're paying for, right? So that's why we support contractors in two different ways, depending on where you're at right now. So for contractors that are ready to upgrade their entire software system, Breezy replaces those outdated, kind of clunky softwares with a modern AI-powered platform that really helps you streamline operations, starting from the call booking all the way to the close, and helps you empower your techs with the structured workflows and the playbooks that really keep customers on your schedule all year round. And then the second way we help, maybe you're not ready to switch your CRMs, or maybe you're really happy with one of the bigger companies like Service Titan or House Call Pro, but you need a lot more attention on lead generation and lead conversion. Well, good news there too, because Breezy can still help you in that situation with our new AI lead capture tool. So it works on top of your existing operating software, and it helps you respond and instantly book calls 24/7 with our after hours AI CSR. And it also helps you capture and qualify more inbound leads on your website through our AI chatbot and our online booking widget. Because we all know that younger homeowners, they might not want to actually pick up the phone and talk to someone. They want to just get a service call on the books. So either way, Breezy's here to be a partner in your growth and not just another one of those software vendors that are trying to steal your money. So I just want to give a quick overview of the HVAC Insider Series for anyone that might be joining us for the first time today. So this is a free ongoing learning session. Absolutely no requirements to be a Breezy customer. Just tune in. We do 3 of these a month, and we really focus on bringing leaders in the space that can help you grow a more profitable service business. And if you ever miss any of these, you can go over to our YouTube channel, and we have all of our recordings living live there, so you don't miss a thing.
Having authored 15 books and trained over 4 million people in the field of communication and sales, I can honestly say that adopting and accepting the prosperity mindset was critical to help me achieve my goals. And I think Weldon Wally's story about handling adversity, overcoming challenges, and coming out to where he has today is such a vivid, true example of this concept. If you look at Weldon's life, that's exactly what he's done. I just feel honored to share the stage with him, and not only do I consider him a very good friend, but I consider him someone that is going to have a life-changing effect on many people in this world, especially those that will take what he says seriously and apply it to their life.
Are you ready? Are you ready to rock your life? You gotta dream big. Whenever you think you've got as big as you can get, go bigger. And when somebody tells you you can't do it, don't let them get in your way while you're busy doing it. what you need to do to build a life of success and wealth and prosperity, it's easy. It's just a little bit easier not to.
All right, guys, are you ready to rock and roll? Let's go, Wally. Where are you at right now?
We're out in Palm Springs, California. We came out here for a few weeks. We've been out here about a week and a half. We got another couple of weeks kind of avoiding some of the snow we're having back in Colorado. And we're at an RV resort. One of my lifelong dreams was to ride around and travel in my RV while I'm working. So I've been working the whole time I'm out here, done 4 or 5 on-site days with clients over here in Palm Springs, also over in Anaheim. So we're staying busy, but we're enjoying the 75-degree weather and sunshine.
Hell yeah. I used to play every year in a baseball tournament over there, and we'd take the RV.
Okay.
And I mean, man, these resorts are so cool. They got putt golf, they got pickleball, they got
this one's got a full 9-hole course with 2 different tee boxes, so you can play 18. But I didn't know you played baseball, but I'm not surprised. You kind of got that look about you, like a baseball player.
Yeah, man. That's my jam. So I gotta join the 35 plus teams now.
If you were a little bit taller, I could think you maybe Randy Johnson's little brother or something.
I like that compliment. So
maybe his son.
Right. Well, then let's get into the content, man. You've been in this industry for a very long time. So why do you believe these objections, like, let me think about it, or I need more bids, why do they actually happen?
Yeah, great question, CJ. You know, in my estimation, in my opinion, homeowners are trying to evaluate the risk. And so they have all these objections. There's a lot of research that shows it causes emotional pain for us to spend money, and people want to avoid that pain. And you combine that with what they perceive as a high level of risk. And so they have every objection in the world. And the example I like to use, suppose you were at Walmart and you go to buy a flashlight for $20 and you take it home, and you don't like it or it doesn't work. You bring it back to Walmart and they give you another one or give you money back. So the element of risk is very low. And when the element of risk is very low, it's very easy to say yes. When the element of risk is very high, it becomes very difficult to say yes, and we start all kind of objections. So imagine you went to that same Walmart, but this time you were buying a flashlight that was $1,000, a much more expensive product. And on the shelf, there was a sign that says no refunds, no exchanges, all sales are finals. Suddenly, the risk of making the wrong decision becomes very high. And as you stand there in the aisle, you start thinking, man, maybe I should go see what Home Depot has, right? AKA 3 bids. Maybe I should think about it, pray on it, sleep on it, whatever, talk to my banker, my priest, my wife, whatever the case is. Or maybe I just get a cheaper price. That way, if I get screwed, I lose less money. So to me, what I call dysfunctional buying behaviors, I want 3 bids, I need a cheaper price, I want to think about it, are all a result of what the homeowner perceives as a high level of risk. Now, the truth of the matter is, I promise you, out of all the dozens of companies you have on here today, the fact that they're on an event like this tells me that they're not like that. They're going to take care of their customers. If there is a problem after the sale, the companies that are involved in training and development are going to take care of it. There truly is no risk for homeowners, the companies in this broadcast, but the homeowner doesn't know that yet. And so it's our job to educate them. In fact, the number one activity I engage in the sales call is to minimize the risk. And there's a variety of ways to do that, but we want to minimize the risk so the homeowner realize, wow, there's just no risk here for me. I can say yes because the risk is so low. So the high risk or the high perceived risk drives a lot of crazy objections.
That's really good insight. And I think, obviously most of us experience those objections at the end of the call during the actual close, right? But where do these objections actually start forming? Or like, they don't just show up at the end, right?
Right. Exactly. Your homeowners are having a pre-sales call meeting before you ever get there. Well, you're driving across town, listening to the radio or whatever, talking on the phone. They're having a little meeting, and the meeting goes like this: honey, we're not buying tonight. We're getting 3 bids, and we're going to get a cheap price. Ready? Break. Right. And then they go and they're loaded for bear for Wally and CJ or whichever comfort advisor walks in the house. They're loaded for bear. So those objections are happening before we even get in the house. Now, they typically don't manifest themselves until the very, very end. But what I will tell you in 25 years of experience of doing this, if the first time that price comes up is at the end, If the first time I want to think about it comes up at the end, if the first time, let me think about it comes up at the end, it's too late, right? You have to deal with these things proactively before the homeowner ever brings them up, as ironic as that might sound. So yeah, the objections are there before we get there. Our job is to straighten. I'm going to clean my camera here a little bit because I know it's a little dark here because I'm in the shade. Maybe that's a little better there. Anyway, the objections are there. Our homeowners have a buying process just like we have a selling process. And so they're going to be thinking about those things, even if they never come up. They're thinking about those things.
Right. Yeah, I think it was hard to see through all the cigar smoke.
Sorry, I'm semi vacationing.
Yeah, man.
I work here in the mornings and I vacation in the afternoons, and it's only 10 here, so maybe too early for a cigar, but 75 degrees out here, so it's nice.
All good, dude. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with you for a really long time, and something that's really stuck with me is your ability to put things into perspective and illustrate these kind of things, right? So walk us
Where
through.
that comes from, CJ?
Where does that come
You know
from?
where that comes from? I have 103 IQ, and so I have to simplify complex topics to understand them. And through the process of simplification, allows me to teach it to people in a very simplified fashion. So I'm a pretty simple guy. No complicated stuff here.
Right. And so your sales hallway metaphor, that visualization, can you walk us through that?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up because I think it's really important. So as you have there on the screen, the sales hallway is a metaphor I use for the sales process. And as you can see, down at the bottom of that sales hallway is me and my homeowners, and I got to walk them down through that sales hallway. The challenge is that the homeowners don't really like being in the sales hallway. They like buying cars and furniture and electronics and clothes and fun stuff, but buying HVAC systems and plumbing repairs and electrical, it's just not that scintillating, right? It's not that. So they have to go through the process at some point. They know that, but they don't like being in there because A, they're going to spend money, and B, they may have had a bad experience with the previous contractor. So as we're walking down that hallway, they're going to have a ton of questions because, again, they're trying to evaluate the risk. How much risk is there in me dealing with this company? So they're going to have a lot of questions about your company warranties, guarantees, your equipment, your installers, just everything about you. And then as you get towards the end of the process, they're looking for that last piece of information, which they falsely believe is the most important piece of information, and that is the price. In their mind, that's the most important piece of information. Now, we all know as professionals in this industry, it's not the most important thing at all. What matters is the assembly, the installation of that system with the craftsman, with the professional that's going to put it in. But they don't know that yet. So they get to the end of the hallway and they get that last piece of information. And then they want to do the most natural thing in the world, which is to escape the sales hallway. They want to postpone the decision of spending money. Again, a lot of research that spending money causes emotional pain. So what they've done is like Hansel and Gretel, they've left a trail of breadcrumbs. And those breadcrumbs go back to escape routes out of the sales hallway. As you have accurately noted there, those escape routes sound like this. You're too expensive. I need 3 bids. I got to think about it. I need a cheaper price, whatever the case is. And what happens is you get to the very end, you think you're going to go through that final door and earn the trust and earn the business. And you're right there. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, well, this sounds great, but I got 2 guys coming tomorrow. And this sounds great, but you're $3,000 higher than the other guy. This sounds great, but we never make a quick decision. And boom, they're out of the hallway. The objective for us, again, if the first time these objections come up is at the end, it's too late because now your homeowners are on DEFCON 1. They know what's coming. They've been sold and they've been closed a million times on everything from furniture to homes to cars to whatever. And so we want to deal with them proactively. In fact, in my process, the consistency selling process, which I have a book, an Amazon #1 bestseller in sales called Consistency Selling. And I teach how we go through and close those doors proactively. Before the homeowner brings up price, I'm going to bring up price, 3 bids, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to get my homeowner to agree with me to 3 major concessions. And if you work the process, this happens in about 30 to 40 minutes. A, they're going to tell me price is not the most important, which is completely the opposite of what they told each other before I got there. They're going to tell me that price is not the most important. 3 bids won't protect them, and they can let me know today if I'm a good fit for them and their family, right? Which is overcoming the I want to think about it objection. And the key is to be strategic in our approach. We can't just walk in, drop off a bid, and hope it works out. We have to, as professional salespeople, we have to close those doors, have the conversations, and ask the questions to get them to make those 3 concessions. And they will. Here's the funny part about this, CJ. Your homeowners know that price is not the most important factor when they're talking about gas and electricity and things that can explode in their home. They don't really believe the cheapest price is gonna be the option here, but they say that in the hopes they're gonna get the high quality at the cheapest price. So we have to be aware of the fact that they know deep down that price is not the most important. And the good news about that, because they know that deep down, it's very easy for us with the proper conversations and questions to bring that out in them, to get them to acknowledge, yeah, I know price is not the most important thing. And that's a game changer at the close when they make that public, what we call a public declaration, right? The consistency principle stands for that proposition that public declarations dictate future actions. If I can get them to acknowledge that price is not the most important, I'm going to have way less resistance at the end. Now, I'm not saying that they won't still bring up price, but the wind will be out of their sails, right? There's hardly any fight left in them. There's 3 or 4 times in the sales process, in the sales hallway, in our sales process that we developed, that they're going to acknowledge that price is not the most important. And that takes a lot of the wind out of their sails on the price objection at the end.
Sure. What do you point them towards to understand that is the most important?
So there's really 3 major places in the sales presentation where we do that. The first one is kind of using some third-party documents and articles that have been around the industry for a long time, the Consumer Reports article in the Department of Energy. The key thing is to learn how to use those documents. So what I will do is say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is early on in the process, by the way. I'm sure price is going to be a pretty important part of this decision. Oh, yeah, it's going to be very important. Well, let's take a look at what the experts say. And so we go through the articles with Consumer Reports, Department of Energy, both of which basically say the single most important thing is proper sizing and a trustworthy contractor. So I go through the articles with them. We review them together. And then at the end, I simply say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, do you agree or disagree with Consumer Reports and U.S. Department of Energy that there are other factors more important than a cheap price? They have no choice but to say, well, yeah, we just read it together, right? So that's my first shot across the bow at price. I come back to it with another very popular article in the industry from the North Carolina Alternative Energy Corporation, where they go on to say only 10% of systems that are installed properly and properly sized. And I'll tell the homeowner, and there's a little pie chart they have. It's really cool. It shows the 10% properly installed. And I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we guarantee you that you're going to be in that 10% if you trust us with this installation. That means you could get 9 other bids, and I'm still going to be the only one who guarantees it, right? I'm the one guy out of 10 who's going to do it right. Now, does it cost a little bit more to put you in that 10%? Of course it does, but I'm sure that's the 10% you want to be in, correct? They're going to say, yeah. So they just acknowledge, okay, I know it's going to cost a little more, but I want to be in that 10%. I've been in the house 20 minutes, and they told each other we're getting a cheap price before I came in. And now that I'm in the house, I'm changing their minds. I'm persuading them. I'm a professional communicator, professional salesperson. I'm changing their minds. The third component is we do what's called a product demonstration. And this is where we get the physical components of the system. Is my internet connection okay? I'm getting a little warning here. Is it okay,
Yeah.
CJ?
No, I see you good.
Okay, good. I just got a little warning. It says it's unstable. I just want to make sure. So product demonstration, we get all the components. I'll get a hard start kit, filter dryer. I get 2 pieces of line set, one beautiful piece of line set, one that's been brazed and it's got that black carbon all over it. You take that piece of line set, you just lay the brazing torch to it on the inside and the outside, let it cool off, drop it in a sandwich bag and break that carbon off. It looks like black sand. And we explain to the homeowners physically with the components there how a proper installation is done. And then we explain to them what happens if the contractor doesn't do the proper wells, right? These new systems are running under way higher pressures, which means it's more important than ever that we have strong, flexible wells. That's why we use 15% silver. A lot of guys still using 5% silver brazing rods. I show them what happens when you don't do a nitrogen purge, all this black carbon up inside of your system. So we go through that whole demonstration. The parts are right there in the kitchen table. And then we ask them 3 questions. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, why do you think other companies skip these steps, given how important they are? And they'll say to save time and money. And I'll say, yeah, to save time and money. But if they skip these steps and the system lasts half as long as it should, have they really saved you any time and money? And they'll say, well, no, I guess not. And then I ask what I call the checkmate question. I always do this product demonstration right before I go into my close. I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, here in a few moments, we're going to look at some system investment options. Sometimes when people see how much it costs to put you in that 10%, when they see how much it costs to do it properly with all these components and techniques I've talked about, sometimes they want to know if we can do it cheaper. Now that you know what I would have to eliminate, the steps I would need to cut to drop the price. Is that something you're going to want me to do today? And it's hilarious because the blood runs from their face. For the first time in their lives, they've been asked to make the true comparison between value, quality, and a cheap price, right? Because they want to live in a dream world and a fantasy world with Tinkerbell and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, that they're somehow going to get this massive, great quality at a cheap price. You have to teach them and educate them. It just isn't practical. There's a reason the price is what it is, and it's because of all these installation steps. So by the time I get to the end, CJ, we've had 3 or 4 conversations about why price is not the most important, and they're just helpless at the end. They may want to try to push back on price, but it's so easy because all you have to do then is point them back to, well, during the product demonstration, you mentioned that you didn't want us to cut the price. Over here, you agree with Consumer Reports. The price isn't the most important. I mean, and so you remind them of those conversations. If I say it, I'm a salesman, but if they said it, it's true. And so they've really made their own case that price is not the most important factor. And it's so easy. I tell people it's like shooting fish in a barrel, and it's big fish in a very small barrel. You just have to take the time to go through the process strategically and professionally. You can't walk in, look at the system, take some quick drawings, take some quick information, and drop off a bid, because you're going to be stuck like Chuck. You're going to be just another price, and unless you're the cheap guy, you're going to be the high number. And let's face it, they're not going to go with the high number unless they know why.
Right. And something that you said right there stuck out to me is process, right?
Yep.
With all that show and tell demonstration that you said, with creating a level of trust and transparency that you're talking about price early on in the conversation. I think that's probably something that a lot of selling techs or company advisors want to, ignore or push off because it maybe is uncomfortable, but process can make that not uncomfortable. So like, there's a good amount of training, I'm sure, that goes into this, right? We'll talk about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what I've been doing for 25 years is training that process. Listen, here's the bottom line. Number one, when I hear, and I see it on Facebook all the time, anytime we do a post, guys are just saying, oh, you're just pushy high pressure. I would never be high pressure. That's just an excuse to avoid the process of learning it, right? It takes effort. At the end of the call, what's the number one thing we want? We want the homeowner to accept our recommendations, whatever those are. The degree to which they will accept that recommendation will depend on the level of trust. The trust will depend on the level of the relationship, the strength of a relationship, and the strength of the relationship is a reflection of the effort and energy and time that I'm willing to invest in that relationship, right? So the time leads to the relationship leads to trust leads to the yes at the end. And so when I see people say, oh, it's high pressure, and it's not high pressure, it's high service. It's being willing to take the time to get to know your homeowners, to build that strong relationship. And so when people complain about sales process being high pressure, what they're really saying is, I'm too freaking lazy to learn the process and to invest the energy and time to build that relationship. That's all they're saying. They just want to be able to go in and drop off a bid in 30 minutes and be gone. And it's an excuse, and it's weak, and it's lame.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And I noticed a bunch of people just jumped on the call right now. So quick housekeeping, there is a QR code up at the top right. Weldon's giving away a free ticket to one lucky winner of today's show. So please drop a couple of pieces of information on that form, and we'll announce at the end. And as always, questions, type them into the chat and we'll get to them at the end.
Can we talk real quick, CJ, about what that event is on January 30 and 31?
Yeah.
So I do 8 events a year in Colorado Springs in my car barn, and we do them at the car barn. We're surrounded by beautiful exotic cars and some old muscle cars. I've gotten really into cars in my old age, and it's a really relaxed environment. We spend 2 days. We do them on Friday and Saturdays to avoid as much time out of the field as we can. And I go through the step-by-step process, the presentation that I've developed over 25 years that's designed to close all those doors in the hallway. So if you like cool cars, and we like it because at the end of the first day, we open up the garage doors, weather permitting, and guys can have a cigar if they want to have a cocktail. And we just sit there and shoot the breeze for a couple of hours. And it's really my chance to create the relationships with my customers, which are the contractors, right? I have to be willing to invest in the relationship just the way I'm asking them to invest in the relationship with their homeowner. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important in the entire process than the relationship. The relationship is the end all be all, in my opinion.
100%. And, it's not going to be a big deal if they're not out answering calls, because the Breezy AI after hours
That's
CSR is
pretty
going to
sweet.
be
That's a pretty sweet. Sean and Ryan are two smart little whippersnappers there.
right.
And I think having something to answer the phone, we all know that's a problem after hours. Nobody wants to deal with it. We have all these call centers that screw half the calls up that they take. And so this AI call center 24/7 is a brilliant little idea that these guys have come up with. They're pretty smart guys over at Breezy.
Absolutely. I got a quick little video. Everybody's interested in hearing it. You cool with me playing it?
I'm absolutely cool with it.
All right, right on. This is a little demo of what happens at the car barn.
Relationships are the single most important thing in this entire deal, in the sales process. There's nothing more important. It's more important than technical skill. It's more important than mechanical aptitude. It's more important.
Wally, how many
than
people are
price.
usually at
It's more important
the
than anything.
events?
You get a lot of
Usually
live
40 to
interaction.
60.
You get to implement more things. So glad my boss invested in us coming, so he won't regret it.
It's more consolidated here, so you get that more personable feel. You get that raw emotion from Weldon itself. You get that he wants everybody to succeed. Weldon truly cares about what you want. One of the better events I've been to.
The impact was amazing, but just being here live
Oh yeah,
makes a huge impact.
Seeing them live, it kind of just sparks that fire, and you see, hey man, this is actually reality, right? Like this is not just somebody spitting out a bunch of mumbo jumbo at you. It's like no, this guy's done it. He's been through the process, and then obviously he brought up the testimonials, Nick and Josh, and well, that just kind of fuels that fire in you, and it just, I don't know, it's just a whole different experience for sure.
all ended there. You guys get the idea, but I mean, unlimited 2 days of access to you and your team and a group of contractors that are all willing to learn and develop mindset. Like that's got to be a powerful experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's awesome. And I would encourage your viewers today to go to weldonlong.com, which is my website, obviously, weldonlong.com. And across the top, you'll see a tab that says testimonials, and just watch those videos. It's amazing the transformation we see with these people.
Yeah, I'll drop that link in the chat for you guys to access it easy. Let's talk a little bit about where you present options inside of that in-home sales process. So what do you see as kind of the biggest mistake that contractors make when they're presenting options?
Yeah. Well, and this is kind of a product of technology. Listen, high tech is good, but there's also a spot for high touch. And I believe when presenting options, high touch is critical. And so the problems I see with a lot of most of the CRMs, we're obviously going over to Breezy now. We have 7 other companies of our own, in addition to all the client companies, hundreds of them. But what happens, you get down to the end of the presentation and you spend an hour and a half or whatever building this connection and this relationship with your homeowner. Super, super important. And then what happens at the end? We say, okay, let me build some system options for you. And they turn to the CRM and they start building options. It takes 10 or 15 minutes. We lose the entire connection with the homeowner. At that critical moment, the most important moment, we kind of lose the connection. While we're building our systems and our CRM, mom starts helping kids with the homework, dad's cooking dinner or doing whatever, and everybody kind of gets scattered. And then we get our systems built, and we say, okay, we got our systems built. And what do they say? They say, can you just email that to us? Because the connection is broken. The relationship has kind of dissolved in just a blink of an eye, And next thing you know, they're saying email the bid, which is the kiss of death. I tell people, if you email bids, we can't be friends. We can't hang out. We can't smoke cigars. We can't do anything. So some big noise over there just kind of startled me. So that connection is critically important. So what we moved to, kind of old school, high touch instead of high tech. We produce 8.5 by 14-inch laminated price cards with 7 systems, and probably don't have time to get in why I choose 7, but the concession principle is very, very important. And so we go straight from trial close, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, based on everything you've learned today, is there any reason other than price you wouldn't trust me? And they'll say, nope, because they want you at this point. They've seen the product demonstration, the guarantees, the warranties, everything about your company. I go straight down, I pull out my 7 systems, and everything is on there. It's like a Denny's menu. And it's very easy. I teach in the closing sequence, obviously, how we guide them through this process with the expectation they're going to say no, probably to the first 1 or maybe even 2 recommendations, the high-end systems. but then they become very likely to say yes to one of the ones right there in the middle. And there's never any connection. There's no break. There's no break in the connection. There's no break in the relationship. I go straight from my trial close. Boom. I got my price. Now let's pick a system. Right. And I think that we got to make sure we keep that connection. And as great as the CRMs are for keeping track of your business, your sales results, et cetera, you don't want to break that connection. And God forbid you go out to your vehicle to put prices together. Just shoot me if you go back to your office to do it. You got to do it right on the heels when the relationship. I mean, think about this, CJ. The relationship in a sales conversation is like an arc, right? It starts down here. We got no relationship. We go in the house. It gets better and better and better and better. And then it peaks out at the end of the presentation, right? We have to capitalize when the relationship is at its peak, because the second we walk out of that house, it begins to wane, right? Within an hour, they forgot our name. Within 24 hours, they forgot we were ever there. And so we have to capitalize on the relationship at the peak of the arc. And that is at the end of the presentation. Listen, most homeowners, when they see a price from a contractor, they are thinking, how can I get this guy cheaper? In the system I've developed with the steps we go through, you know what they're thinking at the very end, right before they see the prices? They're thinking, man, I hope I can afford this company. I really hope I can afford this company. And let's face it, with financing, we can do that for them. So on these price cards we have, I think the one you have up there has the whole price, but on the back, it's got the monthly payments. And that's what we lead with. When they want to know the actual price, we flip it over and show them. You can't hide that from them, but then we flip it back over and talk about the monthly payment. They can afford pretty much anything they want with the convenience of financing.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So 7 options. How have you kind of landed on 7 as the magic number?
Well, it's based on something called the concession principle. The sales process itself is based on the consistency principle that public declarations dictate future actions. The concession principles is critical. So what the concession principle stands for, basically, CJ, if I ask you for $5, there's some probability you'll give it to me. We don't know if that's 25%, 1%, 50%. We don't know, but there's some probability you'll give me the $5. But there's research that shows that if I ask you for $20 first and you say no, and then I ask you for $5, you become 3 times as likely to give me the $5 because you said no to the $20. So there was a very famous study done by Cialdini, who you're very familiar with, who wrote the books on influence and persuasion. He took 100 college kids and he asked them, would you be willing to take a group of juvenile delinquents to the zoo for a day? And out of 100 kids, only 13 said yes. 87% said, no way, Jose, I don't have time, right? So then they went to another group of college kids, same demographics, very similar, same campus, et cetera. So similar kids. And they asked the same question, but first they asked a preceding question. The preceding question was, would you be willing to mentor a group of juvenile delinquents for 2 hours a week for 2 years? Exactly 0% said yes. 100 out of 100 said, no, I just don't have time for that. Then they said, oh, would you be willing to at least take them to the zoo for a day? And 50% of the kids said yes. 13% on the first ask. And the second group, it tripled to 50% simply by asking for a larger ask first. So this whole program is built on building identifying the problems the homeowner has, getting permission to share solutions, potential solutions. Doesn't mean the homeowner is going to buy them, but my first ask is going to be for that high-end system. Not with the expectation they're going to say yes, but with full expectation they're going to say no. And in fact, they might say no the second time. But we know, because we're professional salespeople, we understand the psychology of sales, they become significantly more likely to say yes to position 4, 3, 4, 5 after they said no to 7 and 6. So the reason I use 7, if I only have 3 and they say no to the first one, now I'm down to my basic systems already. Right. I want these 2 positions, 6 and 7, to be, off the charts with 10-year parts and labors and 10-year service agreements and all the accessories and ductwork and blah, blah, blah. Again, in the expectation, they're going to say, no, that's just too much. But then they become more likely to say yes to my 3, 4, and 5 options, or 4, 5, and I guess 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6 rather. So this one's got 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So they're gonna say no to the first 2, but now they're saying yes to what I call my meat and potato system, the system that I want to sell the most of, right? Going to be mid-tier or high efficiency, depending on your market. And it's going to be priced just where I need to be in the wheelhouse for my company. And they become much more likely. The other thing is, I've noticed with 7 systems, for years we used 5 and it worked pretty good. When I went to 7, what we noticed with homeowners is they stop saying, well, let me see what the other guy has. When we had 3 or 4 or 5, they would often say, well, let me see what the other guy has. When they see 7 systems in the homeowner's mind, there can't possibly be more options besides these 7. What else could there be? Now we know there's a infinite number of options they could go with from efficiency and ductless and so on and so forth. But to the homeowner, they're like, wow, I got the whole gamut here of systems. So let me just choose from one of these. Plus, they're already at the point where they're thinking, I hope I can afford this guy. This is the guy I want, or the gal. And so the 7 systems to capitalize on the concession principle so that you don't push yourself down to these basic systems too quickly. We start with some really high stuff. Expectation, they're going to say no, no, no. But we know they become more likely to say yes after a couple of no's.
That makes sense. And, from a previous session we've been on, I don't have the graphic with me now, but you have a graphic of this slope, right? And there's a boulder up here. And if you start at the top, you can always let that boulder roll down. But if you start at the bottom, it's almost impossible to push that boulder back up at the top. So you always want to start at those higher tier, higher value systems, work your way down.
I mean, you just think about it. If you've got this hill and you've got, let's say at the bottom end solution is 12,000, the top end solution is 35,000 or whatever, and you want your average ticket to be around 18,000. So I can start at 10 or 12,000 and try to fight the forces of gravity and use brute strength to push that boulder from 12,000 up to 18. Or I can have a helicopter bring it in and drop it off at the top of the mountain, and using gravity and leverage in my favor, gradually lower it down to 18. Obviously, that's an easier process than trying to push, which, by the way, is why I never qualify budget. Budget ultimately will determine what the homeowner buys, because the budget is very relevant, but I don't qualify budget. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes we make is walking in the house and saying how much you're looking to spend on this system. That's just a lazy salesperson's, just so they can get right to the point. Oh, I got a system that's in that range, right? If you ask somebody what's your budget, number one, they're going to lowball you, right? Because they're not stupid. So let's say lowball you at 10,000. How in the world am I going to recommend my high efficiency $30,000 system or whatever if they told me their budget was 10,000? I look like an idiot. So I don't ask budget. I will qualify monthly budget, right? Because let's face it, monthly budget, they can typically buy whatever they want. But I think qualifying budget in the beginning is a mistake, because it boxes us in and it makes it difficult to recommend the high-end systems, which you need to do to get them to say no, because now you got to go straight to the $10,000 or $12,000 options, and you're already at the bottom of your system offerings. So yeah, I think that's really important as well.
Great point. And then how should those homeowners be feeling when options are presented correctly?
Well, you got to have a strong relationship. Relationships, as we know, take time. Relationships are organic by nature, which means you can't force the relationship. Relationships are like a field of corn. They grow according to the laws of nature, not according to my rules. So if I'm a Kansas wheat farmer and I go out there and scream at my wheat field, hey, grow faster, wheat don't care, right? Wheat's going to grow as wheat grows, right? Or corn or whatever your crop is. Relationships are the same way. So we have to invest the time to build that relationship. And at the end, my homeowner should feel like, A, I hope I can afford this company. And B, they got to feel extremely comfortable with us as individuals. Because again, relationship is the key. They got to feel like this is an education. This is a consultative process. They don't feel trapped. They don't feel cornered. There's a lot of things I do in the process to make sure my homeowner doesn't feel trapped or pressured. And I'll tell you why that's so important, right? I tell people, like, put your palm up against somebody else's palm, right? And have them hold their palm up. You put your palm up and don't say a word to them. Just start pushing. And without saying a word to them, they automatically start doing what? They push back. You don't have to tell them to push back. It's human freaking nature. When you push, people push back. And that has changed. 20 years ago, you could get away with some high pressure techniques or stuff a lot of guys have used over the years. But now homeowners are more sophisticated and more educated than ever. Now, granted, a lot of the education they get on the internet is misinformation, but they feel like they're in a pretty good position. You can't push people. You can't, that doesn't work anymore, because the only thing worse than losing a sale is losing a sale and getting a bad review. And that will happen if you push. Not only will they not buy from you, but they're going to go on and say, these guys tried to high pressure me. So now you got a 1-star review and you got no money. It's got to be handled in a more consultative way based on the strength of the relationship. It's the only way to do it in the 21st century, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe, I got 103 IQ, so I could be wrong. I just know it works.
Right. Cody Sims brings up a good question. Where do you have like ductwork, AIQ, etc. on the sheet, or is it somewhere separate? And that kind of leads me into the next phase, talking about the consumer report, talking about your guarantees. Like, you've created a flip book that's brandable, based on the contractor, that is basically the playbook for the conversation in home. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So for members of our program, we have a monthly subscription. We do all the training, from setting the lead coordination training, service tech training, sales training online. And they get 5 tickets to our live events in Colorado Springs they can use however they choose to use. But in addition to that, we also create their sales presentation book, which you're showing here, and it's branded with their colors and their logo, et cetera. And then we also build the price cards, by the way, because one of the things that drives me crazy is going to some of these trainings and guys say, you should do this and you should do that. Get back to the office, and the contractor's so busy with 1,000 fires to put out that they don't have time to build a presentation, much less build the price cards. So we teach them how to properly price their goods and services, and then we actually build the price cards for them. What was the last part of that question, CJ? Because part of it was really good in there about the accessories.
Right.
So one of the things I've learned in sales, there's an old saying that says the best time to sell somebody something is right after they bought something, right? And so what we do is we're going to use those price cards you showed to close on the core system. Then we're going to go to another accessory book, and we're going to talk about the ductwork. We're going to talk about IQ. We're going to talk about tankless water. We're going to talk about whatever else we talk about. We also have one of these built for ductless as well, which is a little more complicated, but we simplify it. And so we're going to use a separate book. Now, it's a high-end system, because I want it to be off the charts. It might include a full duct system in it, 10 years parts and labor. You could throw in a tankless hot water system. You could throw in whatever you want, because you want that first system to be kind of off the charts. But once we close them on the core system, okay, let's look at your accessories, because the best time to sell somebody, listen, we all know, you feel it from homeowners when they make the final decision, like, okay, let's go with this. It's like there's a big release of energy, right? A big release of tension. And it's like, oh, okay, now they're looking at a couple of $1,000 more for tankless, or, $4 or $5 grand for the ductwork, whatever it is. But in comparison, now it's just, this is going to add $30 a month to your monthly payment or whatever. So it becomes very easy to sell that. But I like to do it after the core system's been chosen. We've agreed upon that. I've got a separate book, which we bill for you, by the way. We bill for that for you as well, based on the accessories that you sell. And now you've got your other little handbook that goes through the various accessories. We build these, by the way, for plumbing calls. We have a similar sales system for plumbing, electrical, and it just simplifies the whole process. You just walk through, there's bullet points you talk about, there's questions that you ask. It's all in the book. You can't screw it up. And by the way, the reason this is so important, when you have a system, if you try to build your company around rock stars, you're going to struggle, because there's a limited number of unicorn rock stars out there, and they tend to be very difficult to deal with. For those of you who have had some of those, you already know. What I want is a process and a system that I can bring somebody new in from outside of the industry, is my preference, from the car business. I've hired waiters at restaurants, car salesmen, you name it. And I can teach them this system in a matter of a week or two. And once they have our greatest story, you showed a picture earlier. Nick Knight hired him from a Toyota dealership where he worked, and came in 1 week of training, learned the system. Now, he was a professional sales guy, so he learned the system very quickly. We taught him how to do a load calc, measure combustion air and airflow, the basic things you got to know to sell a system. You don't have to be a technician or an installer, but you do need some basic technical knowledge. And he started on a Monday, went to the training. The following Monday, he went out and wanted to start running calls. He sold 150 grand his first month in the industry. And we've had a ton of success stories like that. If you want to scale your company, you have to have a system and a process to develop salespeople. You can't just wait on the unicorn rock star to walk to the door, because there's not that many of them. I need something that I can take mediocre talent and give them a process, a high performing process that they can execute and generate outstanding results. I can't just depend on rock stars.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Right. Yeah. Everybody on here has been great. Like a lot of great feedback. Um, is there any specific phrase or phrases that you want contractors to use or avoid during the in-home sales presentation?
There are some, and these were developed years ago, decades ago, by Tom Hopkins, who's a very dear friend of mine. And there are certain things we want to avoid, like we don't want to say sign, we don't want to say contract. We use terms like agreement, authorize the agreement, that type of stuff. If you ever want to have some fun, go on YouTube and just Google Tom Hopkins. I think he calls them words to never use or send words or something like I forget what he calls them, but there's a whole list. But I will say there's one that I highly recommend. Actually, I'm going to tell you three that I highly recommend. Number one is the phrase, what that means to you. The reason I say that is that in every product and service, there's features and benefits. Salespeople tend to talk about features. Homeowners don't care about features. They care about benefits. So I just saw you flash up on the screen there, a variable speed. Variable speed furnace is a feature. The variable speed is the feature. You tell homeowners, hey, we have a variable speed furnace in this unit. That means nothing to them. That's the feature. You have to translate that into the benefit. And the easiest way to do that is to say, this is a variable speed motor. What that means to you, Mr. Homeowner, is that it's going to circulate the air very gently in the home. It's kind of like if you take a hot bath and the water starts to cool off and you turn the hot water back on. What's the first thing you do with your hand? You start stirring the water back up. That's what a variable speed means to you. Now they can relate, right? So what that means to you, anytime a warranty is a feature, right? This has a 10-year parts and labor warranty. What that means to you, Mr. Homeowner, is that for 10 years, you don't have to worry about spending a dime on the system. You have to translate that. That's a very, very important phrase. The other one is my favorite signature close for the four most powerful words in sales. And that is, will you trust me? Will you trust me with this recommendation? That's super important. And the third one is the three most important words in sales, which are earlier you said. This is at the end of my close. And if they bring up price, I have to remind them, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, earlier you said that price was not the most important factor. Has that changed at all in our time together? Oh, blah, 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 blah. No, I understand it's a big decision. With your permission, may I start the paperwork? So, will you trust me? Earlier you said, and what that means to you are three phrases that I think are critical in the sales process. As you can see, I don't just throw caution to the wind and randomly go run a sales call. It's a very professional process. The good news is it's so easy, anybody can do it because every page is lined out with bullet points and the things you want to talk about. And so, plus we offer the training online as well as our live events, so our members can go online, watch certain sections again, and really make sure that they're at the top of their game when they walk inside the house.
Yeah, love it. Cool. So, and going back to the live event, the next one coming up in the car barn, January 30th and 31st. All of this is great to learn online, and it's great that we can have these, sessions where you don't have to leave the shop, but really getting in person, getting your hands dirty, getting access to the trainer, being able to ask questions, role play. Yep. That's all very, very, very important. So
it's like watching stuff online is great. It's a good reminder, but it can't be the core of the whole program, right? It's like listening to a song on the radio versus going to the concert, right? The lyrics are the same, the music's the same, but when they're in a room with me for 2 days, it's a whole different experience. By the way, in February, we'll be offering our Owning the Service Call training, which is teaching service techs how to build a higher ticket, turn more leads and better quality leads. And then we have our advanced sales training in March, which is just closing, role playing closing for 2 days. And then also in March, we have we call our Building Wealth in the Rockies event, which is an event for owners to come in and brainstorm and work with other owners that are trying to grow and scale their businesses.
But hey, Weldon, part of our work together, you're one of our very trusted advisors at Breezy. Your expertise has made its way into so many of our products and solutions. Our new AI lead capture product that can be put on top of any CRM has really been built on the back of your CSR and sales philosophy and some of your frameworks. So talk a little bit about your work with Breezy and how you see kind of Breezy like evolving in the industry.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, for transparency, I have been advisor to them since almost day one, since Sean and Ryan started this. Two very smart young men, And they came to me and a few others in the industry, and they said, before they started building it, what do we need to do? And I said, you need to build something strictly for HVAC. And that's what they've done. This is strictly for HVAC companies. And I think that is our applications are a little bit unique for sales tracking, service call tracking, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing I've learned about both those guys is that they're super, super responsive, right? You can talk to them about, man, we could add this feature, add that feature. And that's how the AI came about, right? Everybody knows the power of AI. One of the biggest challenges that we face in our business are after hour calls. And what they've done is to create this AI call center that handles it all during the night, whenever, and make sure the right information is given to the homeowner instead of some, call service, after hours call center that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They're taking calls for doctors and window companies and HVAC companies and every mechanic. And yeah, they're taking all types of calls, and all they do is collect information and pass it on. The AI is very responsive and specific to our industry. So if there's anything that I really appreciate what they've done at Breezy is they've created a system just for us, just for our industry. And so I think that's a pretty powerful consideration.
Absolutely. And I appreciate, all the work that we've done together over the years. And I appreciate everybody showing up for the call today. So yeah, anything else you want to say about that, Weldon?
No, I just want to thank you, CJ, for inviting me, Sean and Ryan over at Breezy. I think the world of those guys as well. And I'm just pleased to be a part of this. And I appreciate you having me on today, a chance to reach out and talk to the industry folks. When we get involved with a company like we don't just point you in the right direction. We take you by the hand. We walk you step by step through the process. And we get completely invested in our clients. And that's why we do these live events and have social hours at the end of the event, so I can connect and build relationships with our clients. So appreciate you having me. Continued success for Breezy. And anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm your Huckleberry.
Love it. Well, thanks again, Weldon. Looking forward to having you back on the show next week with your partner in crime, Mr. Gary Ellicks, to talk about.
That's always fun.
Yeah, right. I'm excited to get to hang out with you both for an hour.
Yeah. So Gary and I have launched the Contracting Edge. So my program is strictly about the sales and service technicians. If you know Gary Ellicks, he's been in this industry for 40 years, probably the smartest guy that I know in the industry. And we work together on other components of your business, budgeting, financial planning, all sorts of stuff. So we'll be talking about that then. Is that next week?
That's next week on the 21st.
Okay. Well, I'll still be out here. Hopefully the weather's still nice.
I'm sure it will be. So yeah, very much looking forward to that, you guys. And thanks again for breaking everything down so clearly, so practically. Thanks to everybody who joined today for investing your time in yourself and getting better. January 21st, Contracting Edge. We're going to show you how to work towards the 20% profit margin that we're all trying to get to. So on the next screen, scan the QR code, join us next week for absolutely free. And thanks again for being here. Guys, keep leading, keep learning, and keep building something great. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.